And we're live here on YouTube. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land. And also my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mike. A little tired. I don't know why, but...
Because we just spent the last hour doing math?
Yeah. I was told there would be no math.
Folks, we're going to get into it, and it's a fun story. We'll explain why we just spent the last hour doing math and how everything changed in the last 10 minutes, and then it fell into place perfectly. Like, tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. So that small snippet of what our next series of poll questions will be.
Yeah.
Apart from our poll questions, we're going to be looking at the wild card weekend and giving you our predictions for the divisional round, as well as talking about the passing of one of the top old school broadcasters passing away today. Passed away yesterday. So, and Mike, you found a NASCAR story for us to talk about as well.
NASCAR starts this week.
All right. So, Mike, all that and more, but what do we got to do first?
Well, you're not going to let me preview anything? You were previewing everything. Did you forget that we have football playoffs that we have to talk about?
Yeah, I said that.
Did you forget that I have esports to talk about?
I did forget that, Mike.
Did you talk about the fact that we have new inductees in the Cubs Hall of Fame?
No, I did not. So you know what? That
now
finishes everything up.
Rich, have you not figured out that my goal is every week I take two basic topics. I don't even get into the what we're talking about every week, and I expect you to get into two topics. And then we start the show. There might be more than 4 topics. But if I say 2 topics, you say 2 topics, then we start the show. That's kind of... I've never spelled it out for you that way, and I probably should have years ago. By the way, I looked. 26.
You going to roll that intro anytime soon?
Sure, let's roll the intro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.
And we're back. Okay, Rich. So, let's talk math and poll questions, because every week we have math because we have poll questions. This last week's poll question: which NFL coaching job would you most like to have? We took out, because it happened nearly immediately after, like came out within a day of us posting this, that Mike Vrabel is out of the carousel as he grabbed his ticket for New England. Not surprising, but we'll talk about that more in the next segment. So for the poll question, the options were Chicago Bears, Las Vegas Raiders. You didn't put in the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't think that's going to be a factor.
And that's the reason I didn't put the Cowboys in is because when I was writing the poll up on Sunday afternoon, the Patriots job had gone to Vrabel, and technically on Sunday when I posted the poll, the Cowboys job was not open yet.
100%. I agree. I was just going to say that. The job didn't come available until Monday. But, so we have the Bears, Raiders, Jags, Saints, and Jets. Rich, I voted for the Saints.
Okay.
Great city. Generally, ownership there is pretty open to spending money and doing things in a way to build. Ownership culture is let's win. Not at all cost, but at most cost. They are willing to spend money. They are willing to do things. Going in as a head coach, I got to feel like there's opportunity to make things happen. And again, you got to be able to get the GM on board with and work with him well. But if you can pull that off, the Saints, I think, the best job, aside from the team that I truly do think is the best. And we'll get to that in a second.
Okay. So, Mike, I chose Jacksonville as the job I would take in the odd event that I was on the hiring cycle and was given a choice. I had multiple offers on the table from all these teams.
Yeah.
So, here's my reasoning why. I got a number one wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. I got a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, albeit one I might have to coach up a little bit more, but I've got a quarterback there.
You think you can coach up a quarterback like that, huh?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay.
And I think I got an ownership that wants to spend $2, and I'm getting a new stadium in a couple of years.
Okay.
And it's warm in Jacksonville. It's nice and warm in Jacksonville.
Okay. So
and I don't have state income taxes. I'm tax free.
Tax free, except for your away games, because apparently sports things are done completely differently. And it's weird.
But Mike, I think I was almost starting to think of the Cowboys. And yes, I've got an owner GM that in a normal situation with the record that the Cowboys sometimes have, that GM should have been fired, but the GM and the owner are the same person. That'll never happen. But if I can keep the owner happy,
you ain't never leaving.
I get to keep my job. Because how long did Jason Garrett keep his job?
Yeah.
Because Jerry was happy.
Yeah, no, that is a great point.
And Texas doesn't have any state income taxes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I get prime time, and I'm on prime time coverage.
Hey,
regardless of how good or bad my team is.
We're gonna talk about prime time in just a second. Teaser there, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mike, where did
the poll question went Chicago Bears, which, by the way, I actually made the argument last week for, and I truly believe the Chicago Bears are set up to be in the medium term to be the best team. It is the team with the least amount of work personnel-wise to win. The talent on that team is the greatest talent compared to any of the other four on this list. I will even add Chicago, or say the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Bears are the best talent-wise on this list. I truly believe that the Bears could be and might be the best team on this list. But I picked the Saints because I think that long-term could be a great place for you. Okay. Now, as we do, let's just... So, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we're setting up seasonal activity poll questions.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to last now through the end of March. Then in the spring will be March through the end of June. And then July, August, September will be summer. And then October, November, December will be fall. And then in January next year, to end a full year-long process, we will determine the best activity related to for whatever season.
Yes. So it is wintertime right now. So Mike and I found 12 activities that we agreed on.
Yep.
There were some honorable mentions that have since been deleted.
And some that were combined, like some of them, and you're going to see things combined. Like, just a quick note, we're going to sledding and tubing are essentially the same thing. We combine those. It's okay. I get it. It's okay. Okay. With that, Rich, tell people what this week's poll question is.
So this week we're going to go with a snowball fight versus curling.
Snowball fight versus curling. Okay.
Yes.
yeah, those are both great wintertime activities. And we'll explain why curling is at the bottom of the list next week.
Yes.
So
in theory, we do have 4 activities that are getting a bye.
Yep.
And those 4 activities that we ranked 1 through 4 were building the snowmen, making snow angels, sledding / tubing, and ice fishing.
Yeah.
So our number 5 activity is going against our number 12 activity, which is snowball fight and curling.
Yep. With that, Rich, let's talk football. We'll do a quick rundown of the wild card weekend, the news that came out of the NFL, and then we'll finish up with the divisional round, and then we'll go back into some of the coaching talk and some of the rumors / commentary of what's going on, especially in Chicago. I mean, that's the one we really care about. So let's start out with bye. We had the Chiefs and Lions. We saw the Chargers and the Texans play on Saturday. Texans win 32-12. I picked the Chargers. We both picked the Chargers in that game. We were both wrong. Later, the Steelers and the Ravens played. I picked the Steelers. You picked the Ravens. The Ravens won 28-14. Rich, how'd the Broncos and the Bills do?
All right. It was a big win for the Buffalo Bills as they won decisively 31-7. We both picked the Bills for that game. Then the Packers and the Eagles kicked off the action on Sunday with the Eagles winning 22-10. We split on that one, Mike. As you said, the Packers. I went with the Eagles.
Yep.
Mike, how did the next 2 games go?
Commanders-Bucks played Sunday Night Football 23-20 in favor of the Commanders, which was my pick. You picked the Bucks. We both picked the Vikings to beat the Rams, and the Vikings didn't show up. 27-9 in favor of the Rams. Rich, for the week, you went 3-3. I went 2-6. Pointed out.
You went 0-6 on the Yahoo Pick'em.
I did my picks. I did. I went in and did my picks. You know what I forgot to do?
What's that?
That stupid save button. In all of the rest of their fantasy, you make your picks, you do your stuff, not picks. You make your lineup changes, and there's no save button. The save button got me. I'm not thrilled about it, but whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
So you just wanted to make it. You just wanted to make the Pick'em challenge a little closer. You're still ahead with picks made, but we are tied off of winning percentage.
Yeah. Okay. So, Rich, real quick, let's talk about some other stuff that we got to do. I actually think that loss for the Vikings should make Vikings fans the happiest fan base on earth right now.
All right. Why is that?
If Sam Darnold comes in and won Week 18, and then comes in and he wouldn't have had to play this week, but let's say he loses last 2 weeks ago. This last week, he wins and plays well throughout the playoffs. Let's say he plays well throughout the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sign that guy, don't you?
Or at least you got to franchise tag him.
So you got to pay him $40 million. That's what the franchise tag is worth right now. So at minimum, you got to franchise tag him. What do you got to do right now?
You can let the market. I think you can let the market play out to see what happens.
You don't even care what happens. You can let him go for all you care. And if he wants to sign on a minimum deal, sure. But you got J.J. McCarthy. By the way, here's the other side of that coin. So you've solved what to do about Sam Darnold. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, Kevin O'Connell took Sam Darnold, who we all thought was washed up, right? The entire league looked at him as washed up. Kevin O'Connell took him, used him in a way that he was able to get his team to 14-3 on the season. What's he going to do when he gets the guy that he helped pick to be his franchise quarterback under his wing? By the way, the guy's been sitting there soaking everything up the entire season this year.
Well, here's the other thing that Minnesota's got going for them. They also got Daniel Jones on the roster.
For like
he's got another
next to nothing.
He's got another reclamation project on the roster that could be a bridge quarterback if McCarthy isn't ready to start right away because he's still recovering from an injury.
Yeah.
Or you've got a veteran quarterback to back him up.
Yeah.
Albeit not one as good as probably as good as Darnold.
Are we sure that he's not?
Have a reclamation project.
Are we sure that he's not better than Sam Darnold? He didn't really get a chance. Daniel Jones had a terrible team.
He had one good. I think he had one good year in New York
with a terrible team,
and that's what got him his extension.
Yep. I am in no way, shape, or form like I think the Vikings fans are looking at the future and they should be thrilled. Yes, take your minute, rend your clothes, cry a little bit that you lost, dust yourself off. Today you are on top. You guys are a scary team next year when you get who you think is your franchise quarterback back next year. That's the scariest thing in the league. Okay. With that being said, let's talk about some rumors and things. The Bears have all but announced that they're going to start doing open interviews on Wednesday nights after school. You can come in and do an open interview at Soldier Field because they're just interviewing everybody under the sun. But a piece of news that hit over the week is that Mike McCarthy's not signing with Chicago, or not signing with Dallas.
Yeah, contract negotiations stalled, and Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones decided to part ways. So Mike McCarthy is a free agent.
I'm scared because Mike McCarthy has since interviewed, and apparently it is now down to a 2-horse race.
I did see that. The rumor has it that it's between him and Ben Johnson.
One of those names I like. One of those names. Here's the problem. In Dallas, this is his first year. He wasn't a 12-win coach.
Nope. No, it wasn't.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought he had been
So in 2020, he had a 6-10 record.
Oh, yeah.
As coach in Dallas, and then 2024, this past year, he was 7-10.
Okay. Okay. So, no, 2024, 2023, 2022, and 2021, he had, so 2020 and 2024, his first year and his last year, he had terrible years. But the other three in between, he had 12 wins. He only had.
So, Mike, I do have a question.
He only had He only had 3 losing records in Green Bay.
Yep.
I don't like saying this, Rich. It might not be the worst thing in the world.
So I do have a question for you there. I'm surprised you are saying it may not be the worst thing to have Mike McCarthy. So
I hate the man, and I'm not thrilled about it. Maybe he wins me over. But what's your question?
So my question, Mike, I'm going to give you the stats of 2 coaches.
Okay. I know who they are, and I know exactly what the stats are, but go ahead. I'll play along. Let's play the game.
So Coach A, Mike.
Yep.
In the span of 07 to this past year, has a win-loss record of 183 and 107, but a playoff record of 8-11. And Coach B has a record of 174 and 112, with a playoff record of 11-11. Which coach would you rather have, Coach A or Coach B?
What was the playoff?
The playoff record for Coach A was 8-11. For Coach B, it's 11-11. Both of these coaches have a Super Bowl win.
I know the answer.
Okay.
Statistically, you want me to say B, and that's Mike. And I want to say A because that's also Mike.
It's not.
Different Mike.
It's not actually. Yeah, it is a different Mike.
I said it was Mike. I didn't say it was the same Mike. I said it was also Mike. Yeah, one of those guys, though.
Yes, but one of those guys is Mike McCarthy.
Is Mike McCarthy. Yep.
Yeah.
The other one has never had a losing record in all of that time. Correct?
It is.
One of those guys won a Super Bowl with somebody else's team. And it's not the Mike that you think it is.
Okay.
So I will truthfully, yes, you're right. I would pick, on statistics alone, I would probably pick B.
Gotcha.
Mike McCarthy.
Okay.
Mike A is Mike Tomlin, winning a Super Bowl, but if you look at the roster from that 08 team, only his second year as the head coach of Pittsburgh, it was the same. It was essentially the same roster as what Bill Cowher
Yep, you're right.
had set up. So now let's talk about how many times, because 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl appearances for Tomlin, and 1 Super Bowl appearance, by the way, 1 Super Bowl appearance,
Yep.
1 for Mike McCarthy.
When I looked this up before, when I was thinking about it, I was really hoping that it would either be their win-loss record is kind of close.
Oh no, it's
really
amazing.
close.
It's amazingly close.
But it seems like Tomlin gets more credit for being. Tomlin seems to get more credit and doesn't take as much heat for mostly coaching teams, getting teams into the playoffs, but they lose in round 1. Where McCarthy, it's like he can't win in the playoffs. But the same, he can't win in the playoffs never gets applied to Mike Tomlin.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but let's look at the records for which he had on his off years, because that tells a completely different story. 6-10, 8-8, fine, whatever. 6-10, 7-9, 4-7, and 1 tie, and he gets released midway through the season. 6-10, 7-10. The problem is Mike McCarthy is either great and has really good years, or he has terrible years. Mike Tomlin has a consistency of mediocrity. Now, I will tell you, in truth, I probably agree. Mike McCarthy is a better pick than Mike Tomlin because you can rebuild when you have a terrible year. If you live in mediocrity forever, guess what you don't get to do? Truly rebuild. So, with that being said, Rich, rumors have it that it's between those two in Chicago. Obviously, I think we both probably want Ben Johnson.
I think, I think I'd rather have Ben Johnson, but
would you be as upset if it's Mike McCarthy? If your options are Mike McCarthy or Matt Eberflus?
Yeah, I'm actually okay with Mike McCarthy, though.
He's growing on me. I'm not sure I'm ready to say I'm okay with it.
Because, 3 straight years of 12-5, albeit with a first-round playoff exit, and maybe his record is better this year if his starting quarterback doesn't get hurt midway through the year and his owner actually gets him a running game. Gets him a running back instead of going cheap and not drafting or signing a competent running back. Maybe this year is a different story, but of course if the record's a different story and it improves, he probably stays in Dallas.
Yep. Okay. So let's get off of that. We don't know what's going to happen. Here's my thing. I think that pure speculation. I don't have any insider knowledge. But what I'm guessing, the Bears have basically come to terms with Ben Johnson, but are not allowed to announce it until after the Lions are out of the playoffs.
Well, what I've been hearing is that Vegas has that hypothetical deal, and they really want to where they can sell that it's more, do you want to, the cupboard's a little bit more bare, and you got more holes to fill in Vegas, but he could be a part of building what he wants instead of inheriting a lot of the talent.
Yeah, it'll be
building the roster to where putting the players in place that he wants rather than working his system around players that are already there.
I don't know. I would love to see Ben Johnson be the guy, but
so one other question I guess is I think the team is going with coaches that have prior experience. So with prior NFL head coaching experience, you got Flores, Pete Carroll, Ron Rivera,
Mike McCarthy,
and Mike McCarthy. If those 4 are your finalists, which one would you take out of the people that have prior head coaching experience?
I think you're going to call me crazy.
Bring him home. Riverboat Ron?
Riverboat Ron. Why not? He's done great. Does anybody think that Riverboat Ron would not do amazing? He has the potential to do great things. He wins locker rooms. I like Riverboat Ron as an option. And you'd be bringing home an 85 Bear to head coach your team.
Okay. It's not bad. So, and the last thing that I have with the Bears coaching job, do you find it odd that with all these people that they've interviewed, only McCarthy and Ron Rivera have gotten face-to-face, in-person interviews, and everybody else has been virtual.
No.
No? Okay. Is it being cheap, or are they utilizing modern technology to maybe have a level playing field if they couldn't make it work to bring somebody in for an in-person interview like Johnson or Aaron Glenn? Because their teams are on bye and they could interview them during Wild Card Weekend.
Apparently Joe Brady got an interview.
I did see that.
I just saw that 2 hours ago. They announced it. Todd Monk. Who are they not interviewing? I did see somewhere that apparently they've already announced that their head coach is going to be Joe Biden. I mean, he's available as of Monday. So, part of my problem is why do they continue to do all of, like, why are we doing 1,000 interviews? Part of me has to think they haven't narrowed it down.
No,
part of me
thinks,
the thing
is everybody, anybody that's currently on that list, your coordinators for your playoff teams, they weren't obviously going to go interview Matt Nagy.
No.
So they talked with the.
By the way,
they talked
not
with the
a
Lions
bad
coaches.
By the way, look at it, Matt Nagy's record in Chicago. He's a winning, by percentage, he's a winning head coach. We've fired 2 winning head coaches. So yeah, I don't know. Like, part of it is you don't. If it gets announced before the end of the season, it's going to be Mike McCarthy. If it doesn't get announced before the end of the season, I think it's going to be one of these other guys.
Yeah. I think they will wait. Because I think once they narrow down their list, then these interview requested can turn into scheduled interviews.
And that's the other problem.
Because Joe
Brady,
once the Ravens-Bills game is over, they can get Todd Monken or Joe Brady scheduled for an interview.
They can get him scheduled in person. And
they can either bring him in person or actually do a virtual interview. I don't think they can. I think if your team is actively in the playoffs, you can't interview, period.
Right. You can request for interview and you can interview.
Yeah.
You just can't. Right. You can't offer the job. But at that point, they can come in for an in-person interview, because I'm guessing most of the in-person interview that, again, Mike McCarthy doesn't have a job.
Yep. Some of these teams, like the Cardinals OC, Putzing, Ron Rivera's not employed. Some teams are on. Now they could bring in Brian Flores for an in-person, for more of a formal in-person interview, since the Vikings got eliminated.
And that's part of why I think that it's not as big of a deal.
Okay.
So, Dallas came open. Vegas has it -160 to -160 that it's going to be Deion Sanders. I think that seems crazy, but I also see that it could work. I also saw a trade package that that Dallas would trade Dak Prescott, a first round, like swap first rounds, swap second rounds, or trade a second round either this year or next year, and something and another pick on top of it, and get the number 1 overall pick so that Deion Sanders can coach his son in the NFL. Yeah,
I did see that too. Well, I don't know. The one thing I'm hearing out of Dallas is it seems like he's willing to go with Jason Witten as a head coach.
He's willing to. But is he going to?
He's got another. Thinking if he's a guy that he's a tough guy. He's a former Cowboy.
Yep.
And being a tight end and being able to win the locker room, he could have the next Dan Campbell on his hands.
You would hope. You would think. So, okay, Rich. Divisional week. Texans,
Yep.
Chiefs. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm surprised the Texans won last week. It's going to stop.
Yep, I agree. Lions, Commanders.
Detroit.
Yep. Rams, Eagles.
I'm going to go with the Rams in this one.
Okay.
It's going to be cold in Philly.
Yep. And then
But
Ravens.
the Rams are relying more on the run these days.
I'm actually picking the Eagles in this one.
Okay.
And then finally, Ravens, Bills.
This is the one game that I really want to watch, and I'm hoping I can find a way to make it to watch that game. If I can only pick one of
ABC,
these
I
4
believe.
games to watch, that's the game I want.
Isn't that the Monday night game?
No, that's the Sunday night game. There's no Monday night game.
Oh, well, then in that case, yeah, you'll be able to watch it.
2
over there.
Saturday, 2 Sunday.
No, you'll be able to watch it.
So
That's the game that's the one game I really want to watch. I might watch the Chiefs game, but I don't know. I think we're actually traveling out to Sioux Falls tomorrow, so whatever. I'm picking the Bills though.
I'm going to take the Ravens.
Okay.
I got to make up those points, and I think with the way the Ravens play, that they can run the ball with Derrick Henry.
I think
the
Bills,
they can
bro.
do well.
I think the Bills.
I'm not going to be upset either way out of the
Yeah.
outcome of this game.
Okay. NCAA tournament or playoffs, football playoffs. It's Notre Dame, Ohio State. I'm taking Notre Dame.
I'll go opposite of you, and I'll go the Ohio State University. So that game will be on Monday, and so we can take that off of our outline next week once we get the outcome.
Okay, Rich. Let's go into. I got a story this week, and I don't think people are following it as closely as it should be.
Good. So, Mike, before you start talking about it, do we need to go into the NASCAR corner?
We do. It is actually. You're right, Rich. Do you see what's coming up next?
What is it, Mike?
It's a left turn, and after that, Rich, it's another left
It's
turn.
another left-hand turn.
Because we're heading into the NASCAR corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out on 5th Avenue in Moline for all your sports memorabilia needs, or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. So, also, Rich, for next week, there is something else you need to. 24 Hours of Daytona is next week. Just a heads up.
Ooh, okay.
So,
But that's next week. So, Mike, you
But-
sprung it on me late saying that how Cletus McFarland saves NASCAR.
do you know
So,
who
Mike, who is Cletus McFarland?
Cletus McFarland is? A YouTuber. He's an automotive YouTuber. So,
He's certainly got a good NASCAR name, Cletus.
well, his name isn't Cletus. His name, actually, his name is actually also, to me, seems like a NASCAR name. Garrett Mitchell. That seems like a NASCAR name too. But Cletus McFarland. So what happened was he worked for a production company that did car takeovers, but their takeovers were like scheduled takeovers, not these takeovers where they take over an intersection and do stupid stuff and kill people. They did like legitimate, like, let's go to a track and we're gonna have burnout pads and we're gonna have all this stuff. And he was on their video crew, worked his way up to being the guy that does emceeing, and did this random video where he made this thing called where he made this character called Cletus McFarland.
Okay.
People loved it, and it popped off. And then he did a thing called Cletus and Cars, which was him hosting things. And then he started his own channel. And at this time, he was in law school, practicing to become a lawyer, or working to become a lawyer. And he quit law school so that he could go full-time, and I quote, to be a redneck. Now, what he did wasn't necessarily all redneckish. One of the cars that he bought was it's what's called a Corvette go-kart. So take all of the body panels off of a Corvette, and that was the car, essentially. A roll cage with nothing else in it. Got that car, worked on it, developed it until it was the fastest stick shift car Corvette in the world.
Okay.
Held that record a couple times. Bought another Corvette for less than $10,000. It was a C5 Corvette, and at the time, that was a crazy good price for those cars. It had been struck by lightning. Car was called Ruby. He started rebuilding it, did a bunch of great stuff on it. It was great. Loved it.
Okay, Mike. So how is he saving NASCAR?
Well, see, I'm trying to fill time because we were a little short, so I was trying to fill a little bit of time. So, fast forward 10 years, almost 5 years maybe, 5 to 10 years, something in that range. He has a following of 4.6 million people. His videos get viewed between 1 and 5 million within a week. He has a really solid following. Because of that, he's done things with Greg Biffle and done things with other NASCAR people coming to races that he puts on. One of his MCs for his races, America's crew chief.
Larry McReynolds.
Larry Mack, yeah. Larry McReynolds has done the announcing for some of his stuff. He has some big names involved in what he does. Well, this last summer, during the hurricane, or fall, during the hurricane that devastated the Appalachian Mountains, one of the things he's done is he's gotten his pilot's license in both fixed wing and rotary, and he bought a helicopter, a very capable helicopter, and he flew that helicopter up there to bring in supplies and rescue people, and just became part of this thing. Was looking for a place to stay. A friend of his is a NASCAR racer, hooked him up with Greg Biffle. Stayed at Greg Biffle's house because Greg Biffle actually had enough land that he could land his helicopter there, and then stay there with his wife. Became good friends with Greg Biffle, and he told Greg Biffle, hey, one of the things I would love to do, I've always wanted to do, a big dream of mine has been to drive in the Daytona 500. And he said, well, the first thing you got to do is run in the ARCA race. And this week, Cletus McFarland ran in and qualified to qualify in the ARCA race. Never been in one of those cars before. That man scored, at one point in time, was the number one fastest car on the track, and at one point in time, and finished the day of testing. So these are guys that are essentially, there are some veterans that are out there to try to help test these guys a little bit, but there are a lot of these guys that are doing it are guys trying to get their get permission to run in the ARCA race the day before the Daytona 500. Cletus McFarland qualified. Now, this guy brings in a loyal fan base, and a lot of that fan base is young. What have we been observing about NASCAR over the last few years, Rich? The fan base is getting old.
Yeah, it is.
to bring in this much youth and excitement over one driver, even if it's just for one race, is going to be huge. And I think when NASCAR itself sees how much how much merch sales he'll have, and all this other stuff, you're going to see that Cletus is going to do stuff that will turn NASCAR on its head. One of the things that he's working on, he wears, for insurance purposes, he wears a helmet. Apparently his insurance company requires him to wear a helmet in all of his aeroplane, helicopter, and racing stuff that he does, because that way if something goes wrong, he can prove he didn't do something stupid, and that it was either a malfunction of parts or something. But this way this is how he gets life insurance for himself. And so he has it, and normally he shares it with his fans. NASCAR doesn't let that happen. Even though NASCAR itself puts a camera right here, he can't use his visor cam because of NASCAR rules.
Ooh.
They are working on getting that bypassed. If Cletus McFarland enters NASCAR, and especially if he enters it full time, Cletus McFarland will single-handedly save NASCAR. That's my case, sir.
Okay. It's not unheard of. I mean, I think, probably nowhere probably near as popular, but I mean, you had
Travis Parker.
Child. Huh?
Oh, Frankie Muniz. Yeah, I think
Frankie Muniz coming out of nowhere, starting in ARCA. He ran trucks last year, and now he's going to be in the Xfinity Series.
I think between the two of those guys, if they both run the Daytona 500 in 2025, it is going to be huge. Huge. It's going to be bigly. I'm excited for it. I think it's great. So, look for that to happen. Rich, we got some races coming up in a couple of weeks. Next week, we have the 24 hours of Daytona. The week after that is going to be the Clash at Bowman Gray, and then the week after that is the Super Bowl, right? And then
yeah.
And then and then NASCAR's the week after the Super Bowl. So we're exactly 1 month out from NASCAR. How exciting. Okay, with that, Rich, let's head into news. Let's talk baseball real quick. I don't want to talk about it. I don't even want to. He hasn't been announcing in Milwaukee for years.
No, he was still calling games last year at the age of 89. His schedule had gotten really close to where he was only doing home games, like select home games, but he was still working in the broadcast booth last year.
I don't even want to go to a Milwaukee game next year. Like, I wasn't going to anyway. But if I don't go, it means I don't have to not hear Bob Uecker announcing a game. I've not been to a Milwaukee game that he hasn't announced, Rich. Well, I've been to one. But it wasn't the Brewers.
Yeah, I mean, one of the unique features of Miller Park, and I guess Wrigley does it too, is that they play the radio broadcast. They have the radio broadcast running to where when you're walking around the concourse getting food or going into the bathrooms, you have the radio feed of the game. So you're not technically missing any part of the game when you're up.
Or when you're hitting
up
the head.
Out of the seat.
Yeah.
And in Milwaukee, it's Bob Uecker's call. In Chicago, you have the Pat and Ron show.
Yeah.
Pat and Ron are on the.
Yep.
Have the call.
Yeah. I don't have words. Like. By the way,
he was also.
Go ahead. You're gonna say.
Yeah, he was also probably one of the last broadcasters to have a solo booth.
Yeah.
Because when he called games, it was just him.
Yep.
He did not have a color commentator he did not have a color commentator or another person in the booth.
Man.
I think it was like him and Vince Scully. I think were one of the last two to be the sole person on the call.
No, I want to work on doing that. I got to work on it, Rich. But the problem is that even if I did that, I'd want to bring you in. Even if I was great at doing a baseball by myself, doing both the color and the regular, and just being a solo guy, I would want to bring people in. And that's the thing about Bob, though. When you listen to his broadcast, it wasn't... When you listen to Pat and Ron, they're having a conversation and you get to listen in. When you listen to Bob Uecker, he was talking to you. Wasn't talking to the guy down the street, even though he was listening to it too. When you listen to Bob Uecker, Bob is telling you. And Bob, that's what a solo booth is. It's that I'm having a conversation with you. I just don't hear your side of it. Kind of like how you and I do sometimes. I get up on a soapbox and I talk for 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time, and you sit there and stare at me, and I'm talking with you. And that's what Bob did for 2 to 4 hours a day at his peak. Amazing. But what I was going to say is, as great as he was as a commentary, in his commentary, as great as he was at, I mean, he joked that he wasn't that good of a baseball player, but he made it to the bigs. He hit fastballs. Maybe not all the time, but he hit them. He was a comedic genius. Like, we forget that what 95% of Americans know him for, his most famous line in the world, was a line from Major League. Your favorite movie, right?
Yep.
Just a bit outside. By the way,
tried the corner and missed. half of his lines were completely him improvising. Mm-hmm.
But again, that doesn't prove that he's a comedic genius. Why do I say that doesn't prove it? Well, with good writing, anybody can look funny. Look at the presidents of the United States when they go to the correspondence dinner. Half the time they get up there, they're not funny guys in general. They get up and read a speech and they look funny. With good writing, anyone can look funny. But, did you ever see his appearances on Johnny Carson?
A lot have been coming up on my Facebook reels this week. I don't think I've had a chance to watch too many of them.
Okay, here's the thing. Real comedians, and we'll do talk show hosts. Talk show hosts will have two different laughs. One laugh is, oh, you're this celebrity and you're telling a funny story that I have to laugh at. Ha, ha, ha. And then there was those laughs when another comedian or someone who truly was funny could come up and make them laugh. And Bob Uecker could make Johnny Carson fall out of his seat laughing just by telling stories. I am going to miss Bob Uecker. And the world is a worse place with him being out of it. I'm sorry, I took up all that time. You got
no. You're fine. It's not going to be the same going to American Family Field up in Milwaukee and not hearing him. For me, it was odd. Even this year, when the Cubs played the Brewers, I would put on the Brewers feed, and then be disappointed when Uecker wasn't on the call because getting up there in age, he didn't do as many games as he used to.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny to hear like his Hall of Fame speech of him cracking jokes about his playing career, saying that I mean, they say I think the one I remembered was that being told to get a bat because we need somebody to get up there and stop this rally, or go up there without a bunt. They knew I wasn't going to hit, so they sent me up there without a bat. Told me to try and draw a walk. Or I think the one that was about his kid's Little League game. I couldn't be more prouder. It was the Little League championship game, and my son went 0 for 3 with an error, and I said, "I'm proud of you, son. You played about as good as I would have." Like father, like son.
Yeah. Well, but even that, like, he was also sharp as attack and plugged into everything. He did an interview with Dan Patrick a year ago, and they talked about the Mendoza line. And because Bob's average was sub 200, and Dan said, "So you were the Mendoza line before Mendoza?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think she's better than me, and she's got a better gig over on ESPN." Talking about a commentary.
Mendoza.
Yeah. At 89 years old, pulls that out. Smart as a whip. Great guy. I'm sad about that. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Anything else on that before we talk about the inductees to the Cubs Hall of Fame?
No.
Okay.
Not really. It's a sad day. Day. But I mean, it wasn't just Major League. I mean, he started he had a reoccurring role on network television as Mr. Belvedere.
Yep, Mr. Belvedere. So, okay. Rich, who are the inductees for the 2025 Cubs Hall of Fame?
Derek Lee and Sammy Sosa.
Derek Lee. I had 20 minutes on this brought up, but we don't have time now because I've spent too much time talking Cletus McFarland and Bob Uecker. Derek Lee, first half of his career, and actually when he wasn't grounding out to double plays, I'd take those all out, and man, that guy has a great stat line. Sammy Sosa, we've talked about that a bunch.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit surprised that the year you're welcoming him back to the organization, first year, bam, we're going to put you in the Cubs Hall of Fame.
I mean, I guarantee that was as soon as he, like, they would have done it last year if he would have apologized last year. If he would have apologized 2 years ago, guess what when he would have gone in? Is anybody believe that Sammy Sosa didn't deserve to be in that Cubs Hall of Fame 3 years after he retired? So
heck, I mean, I think if he had apologized during the 16 season, I think he would have been one of those Cubs that got like an honorary ring.
100%. And actually, I bet he gets an honorary ring at the ceremony. Anyway, okay. Real quick, we won our match. We won all 3 games. The first game was a little rough. We won. We pulled it out, and then the second 2 games we dominated for Rocket League. You can check us out on Facebook.com// You have to hit that @ symbol. I forget about that on YouTube. But /@ Pioneers Esports, I believe, is what it is. So, with that, Rich, do you have any shout-outs for the week?
I do. Josh Couture. It's his birthday.
Josh,
so we're getting together with him and
nice.
This Sunday to celebrate his birthday.
Tell him happy birthday from me. I'll tell it on Facebook. But I always, personally, like, I had a friend whose mom died in Israel earlier this year, and not Rosa, a friend of hers, someone that I met while I was over there. And to me, sending condolences over Facebook doesn't feel real. But when I had one of my normal conversations with Rosa, I said, "Hey, let her know that I'm thinking about her and that I care." That to me feels more real than saying, "Hey, I'm sorry about your mom" on Facebook. So I don't know. Maybe Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It personally does. I do have 2 shout-outs that I forgot to do last week. Tim and James Scranton, my cousins, had their birthday last week. So, happy birthday to you guys. Those are the twin cousins that I was as close as brothers to. And Todd had one a week before that, and I forgot to mention that. And I'm a terrible brother-cousin thing. We're not brother cousins. It's complicated. They lived with us for some time because parenting stuff. It's past. It's over. Whatever. We're done. Anything else before we leave the show, Rich?
I don't think so. So, Mike, if they're watching us here on the YouTube, where else can they find the episodes of the show?
Anywhere where you find where you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think we're on the new Google platform. It's hard to tell. I got it synced at one point. I think it's still in sync with Google Podcasts, or with Spotify. I think everything's still syncing over. I don't know. I should check on that, but I'm busy and I don't have time. But if you go to Spotify, at least I guarantee you can find us there. So with that, Rich, they want to participate in poll questions. They want to participate. They want to say something to they want to comment on one of our posts. They want to see what we're talking about. Where should they go?
Look us up on Facebook, either at Fans of Balls and Sticks or Balls and Sticks. And also, if you're watching us here on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, ring the bell, comment, and subscribe. And also, make sure to review us if you found us in podcast land.
Yeah. Okay, Rich, what's the time to do?
Mike, go ahead and roll that outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.